Okay, so you've got your SNO Performance water methanol injection system for your SN95. So now what? Seems like a lot of stuff. So the first thing you want to do is lay everything out and then find out where they go. And then that's how I like to start this video, because honestly, that's the first step, I feel like. And then you can kind of brainstorm about how you want to set that up. And I'll go over that as well. But real quick, this is what the kit will come with. The obvious parts are going to be right in your face. That's really easy stuff. I'm not really worried about that. But for example, this right here, this is going to be your pressure switch. Essentially, it's going to connect to a vacuum / boost vacuum line in your car, depending if you're running NA or boosted application. This is going to have to be connected to basically something along the lines of that. It is threaded. Let's see if we can get it to focus. It is threaded, so technically you could tap and screw this in to the manifold. However, you can also just run a vacuum line to it and it's fine. And this is the sensor. This will go straight to the gauge. Actually, it'll hook up straight to one of the many wires back here, which are pretty straightforward. It kind of seems like a lot, but once you look at the schematics, it is quite simple, and I'll go over that as well. But yep, just make sure you connect these two. You're gonna have these quick disconnect fittings, so there's gonna be 3 of them. And at first I thought, if you look at the instructions, this is a one-way check valve. I thought that this needed 2, one on either side, but actually just one is all you need. These other 2 go on either side of the pump. This right here is going to be hooked up to your intake manifold, and this is basically where you're going to spray, and then these are going to be your nozzles right here. There's 2 of them, different gauges, and then we're going to have to figure out, based on the horsepower you think you might be running with this kit, it'll be the appropriate nozzle to go with that. And then there's a guide to help you out with that. But basically you have the one-way check valve hooked up to this here, and the quick disconnect. All of this stuff is going to be on your intake, and basically right before the throttle body. And then basically I'm going to go ahead and just screw everything in and just kind of leave it as is, preset. And then we'll find a mounting spot for basically the pump and the reservoir. And you got to figure out basically how to run your line up front to your intake. So I've already got it figured out. So let me show you that after I quickly just hook up all this stuff right here. I do have thread sealant. Doesn't have to be high temp. I just had that from a different project. It does come with what you need. So technically, I just had this, so I'm going to choose to go with that rather than this. But the kit comes with everything you need. All right, the next thing is basically to set up your reservoir. So I have the float here that's essentially gonna tell me up front when the liquid is low. And there is an arrow. Let's see if I can focus on it. Right there, it's kind of hard to see, but the arrow is essentially pointing up. That needs to be pointing down, so down, like that. So basically, whenever there is fluid, it's gonna cause the flow to open the circuit like that. And once the fluid level falls below the float, it'll close the circuit, and then it'll send a signal letting you know that you're low on the fluid. It's up to you how low you want to go with this. Probably gonna go maybe somewhere here. That should be plenty of heads up to let me know, like, hey, maybe put some more in or whatever. So it's not like it's gonna go dry instantly if the float drops you below the float around here. But it's up to you where you want to put it. Also, make do with what you have. I don't have a real neat way to essentially carve out that hole. So what I've decided to do is use this, normally used for drywalls or wood or some other stuff, and I essentially use this rubber grommet, which is what's going to create the seal between the sensor and the screw here on the outside. And as long as the diameter of the cut that you're making is somewhat similar in size, the rest of the grommet is going to create the seal that you're looking for. So just close enough to basically be able to fit or squeeze this through and finish the install. But yeah, that's the plan. Let's get it in there. Now, be very careful with tightening that nut there that secures the sensor to the reservoir. It is not meant to go at a full strength in there. Just basically tighten enough until you see the seal in there bulge out and cover basically the any gaps created by the way you drilled the hole in there. So to bulge out, to create a seal, that's perfect enough. The way to know if it's tight enough is just to use your fingers and just kind of wiggle it around and try to unscrew it. If you can't, by just using your natural like strength without really exerting yourself in it, and then it's good enough. Basically, the only thing that could potentially walk this out would be vibrations. And quite honestly, if you just get it in there tight enough to see the seal in there bulge out, it's not going anywhere. So you get to go on that. But now I'm gonna make sure the reservoir is clean and make sure there's no debris from drilling the hole out. And now I'm probably just gonna measure and mount and screw it on and see how it looks inside the back of the car. Okay, this is the back seat of the car. As you can tell, you can see the marks that I made from inside the trunk with a marker just to make sure I was going to clear once I closed this. But I used very small screws, maybe like 1/2 inch or less screws, and they're not on there super tight. To be honest, just be careful not to damage the back here. But just screw them in until they go in, and that's pretty much it. That's what you need. This is crazy sturdy. And so here's the plan. Close the seat. Now I have access to the back, and then if I want to refill it, I can just open it and have access back here. Not terrible at all. I can gain access from the back of the driver's seat or even from the back of the passenger seat, and just refill it real quick. And then there she goes. I did end up using a different vacuum line than the one that the kit came with, because I needed, just due to the location of the pump where I want it, I needed something a little longer. To be honest, if you go to Amazon and buy yourself a set of vacuum lines, they come with all sorts of different sizes. You'll use them over the years. These are great as well. So this is a great purchase. Now I got plenty of slack and plenty of room to kind of figure out exactly where I want to put this pump. And once again, I do want to run the line that's going to go into the intake right through this rubber grommet here. So I know the fuel tank is down here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jack the car up I'm gonna take a look down there with a flashlight and kind of take a peek and see how difficult this is really gonna be. If it's too much of a pain, I may have to relocate the pump, but take a look and see what happens. Okay, so far, this is the way I'm routing the plumbing. So the pump is gonna stay right here. That's on the a little bit on the right side. Basically, the reservoir vacuum line, or I should say plumbing, is gonna go right here. Make sure you look at the arrows. It'll tell you which direction the flow is, but hook up to that, and then the plumbing that'll go to the air intake is gonna come right through here, and this grommet right there. And the reason for that is the other grommet that I was planning on using, the fuel tank is in the way, so there's also the exhaust nearby and all kinds of other issues. This was the easiest. Once you feed it through that grommet there, this is where it's going to pop up. Right through the frame. There's a little access hole there right through the frame, and then from there you can kind of route it above the suspension, tuck it in as much as you can. There's access area right around the shock right behind it. Plenty of clearance. You can feed it through there if you like. Come in behind the spring, and from there you can kind of route it underneath. I'll show you in a second what it looks like under there. But I am planning on using a loom to just kind of protect this area here from debris, and then maybe some heat from part of the exhaust. But it shouldn't be a problem. Like this right here is really tough. It's not like your typical vacuum line at all. It is hard plastic, so you don't need to protect this line at all if you really don't want to, but just this little area here for me, I think I'm gonna do, but the rest is gonna stay open. And essentially routed it through there, and just kind of follows the body kit. There's little holes basically is meant to hold the side skirt in place all throughout, and I just use the zip tie to kind of hold it in place. And once I get up there, I'm going to feed it through the fender, and the plan right now is to, once I get the front end up, I'll have access to the inside the liner here, so I have to move the liner and then feed that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find a way to get it through here, somewhere like that. The reason why I'm not going directly under inside the engine bay is because the exhaust manifold puts out a lot of heat. So I'm going to keep it essentially on the outside and feed it through, and it's going to essentially walk its way up here and bolt right in here right before the intake, and that should work out real nice. Keep everything away from heat and debris. That's the goal. So yeah, I'm gonna keep at it and check back in once I get that stuff done. All right, here's how it looks coming through the fender. And I did find an orifice right there at the strut tower that worked out real nice. So yep, that's where it comes from right there. And I got plenty of slack, so the amount of plumbing they give you is more than enough to run all the way from the trunk up front. So all I got left to do is just kind of tap and drill and tap where the nozzle is gonna go, and pretty much electrical is what's left, and that's pretty much it. So at least I think the hardest part is over. Now I can just work inside the car. So all this stuff gets tucked in. And it's all neatly kind of tucked away and away from any debris and all that. So far so good. Let's get into the wiring and check back in once I get some of the hard stuff out of the way. Okay, now for the wiring part of it, I want to point out just a couple of things. Be very careful with the gauge itself. I'm impressed by the type of wires they use, this copper wiring, and I'll show you the back end real quick. But the gauge itself is kind of flimsy. This little thing here pops out quite easily. It's supposed to clip in place, and you kind of hear it doing it, but then it falls right back out. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to remedy that, which I think just putting a little bit of silicone or maybe a dab of super glue or something there should just hold it in place just fine. So just kind of a little disappointing, but hopefully the gauge works properly. If I can manage to clip this back in place, I'm sure it'll stay though. But I did have to file the gauge down just a little bit. So depending on what kind of pod you're using or how you're setting it up, you might have to do that. The back end, gotta be careful, make sure nothing falls apart here. Quite a hefty amount of wires coming out of it. I wouldn't worry so much about them. Really, the only one you need right now is the red. And that's essentially what's going to, once you switch on the car, that's what's going to power the gauge. It's also what's going to power basically the pump and anything else that needs direct power. But what you want to do is link this to the fuse panel right below, and I'll show you exactly which one is the switch. Okay, let's see if we can get a good view here. So I have a few. You don't need that unless you're running different kind of gauges that offer like a dimmable option, and you need to run constant power to it. This one doesn't require that. It just literally requires a bunch of sensor wires and just one power switch on wire. So that's the red that I'm talking about. And that's this one here. And looks like, let's see if I can, that should be number, let's see, 34, I think. One sec. Let's see. Let me double check. So I got, is the red right here. Oh, so this corner one here. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. So number 33. Number 33. So from the top, like from the steering column, all the way to the right, it is the third one down from the top. And this will essentially give you the once you switch on the key, it'll power everything up the way you need it. So locate that, add a circuit, put a fuse on it, and that should be enough for that. So currently I have mine set up this way. I removed the old cassette player that was down here and then put one of these gauge pods there. A lot of people run it on a pillar here, and so there's all kinds of different ways you can do it, but essentially to power the gauge, that's how you want to do it. Right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on removing a lot of the trim pieces out of the way so I can start running the wires from the pump and the float sensor in the reservoir up front here, so I can power that. And really that should be it. Should be a matter of just kind of running the wires through and connecting everything. A lot of these older sensors is in a schematic, so I'll cover those and how they go. But right now, really, the power wire is what I'm worried about. Not worried about, but this is essentially the primary deal to work on. So, yep, I'm gonna do a few more things, and then once I got some of the stuff in place, check back in. Okay, so I just basically figured out how the wiring is all laid out. The gauge is essentially acting like a power distribution module. Essentially, you feed it power from the fuse underneath the dash there that I just showed you. That's the key on power, and then the gauge itself will distribute power through the wires here. That's why there's so many of them, through the wires here accordingly. So an example, once I have the red wire hooked up, it's going to power the gauge. It's going to power basically all the wires that need to be powered, and the pump is powered by the green wire. And basically now, once I hook up this green wire to the pump with the one that I'm running underneath here, then the pump all of a sudden is powered. And that's basically the same for every other systems in the setup. So the signal wire from the reservoir that tells you the whether the tank is low or not, that's got its own color that'll hook up to one of these back here, and that's basically how the whole thing works. So I'm gonna hook it up. I'll check back in if I have any more epiphanies, and I'll let you know how this is all set up. Okay, I'm gonna stop and make a quick tip here for running the wires. I just removed the seat, and it's really easy. Really, you just pry up on it. There are 2 pins that go in here. They're not clipped in or anything like that. They just gotta go in there to prevent the bench seat from sliding around. I'll show you what that looks like. Let's see here. There we go. So you basically kind of pull on those pins and the seat comes right out, and makes a huge difference for making the room you need to run the wires without having to struggle much. So I'm gonna bring this down here, and essentially I can see the pump right there. I'm gonna run the wires right through behind. There's a little hole there that's gonna allow me to kind of feed everything under, and once I have it fed through, I'll be able to catch it from here, and then I can run it right underneath here through there. I can pull up on that and basically get the wires to tuck in under. And then this trim piece right here, you can pry that up as well, and I'm gonna run it through here. And again, the trim piece is over here. You can also just kind of pull on it, and kind of comes out of those holes there that kind of hold it in place by pressure. And then from there, you basically run a diffuse panel. So that's the plan, and really only took me like less than a minute to undo all of this. So it's quite easy. You can do it without any special tools or anything like that. And yeah, so see how this goes. Also, when grounding your fuel pump and your reservoir, whatchamacallit, I can't think right now, the reservoir low level sensor, make sure you hook it up to an existing ground. So if you look over on the left side of the trunk, there's all kinds of wiring and looms and stuff all over the place here. So naturally there'll be a ground for some of the circuits. So there's one right there, and that way you know at least is properly grounded. You're not gonna have any issues later with things not turning on, and you're gonna go crazy, especially after doing all of this wiring. You might lose your mind trying to figure out where the background is or what the heck's going on. So yeah, just go ahead and hook it up to an existing ground wherever you might be able to find it. So that'll give you a much better deal with avoiding some issues. All right, finally got it on there a little lined up with the direction I want it. I just had to kind of play around with the washers, and I ended up having to thread one of the washers, like the one on the bottom, which kind of helps a little bit with, like this is the one that I threaded, with keeping everything tidy up here, and then gives it another kind of bit of surface area to kind of grab onto, but essentially this is how much is protruding through, so that should work out real nice. And now all I gotta do is just put it in, let everything dry, finish up the plumbing, and I'll show you guys basically what everything looks like. All right, this is the end product in the trunk. I did learn something here. The first one, the hard line that SNO supplies is plenty to run from the pump all the way to the nozzle up front on the intake, and still have left over to essentially hook it up from the reservoir over to the inlet of the pump. So that was awesome. I do like the hard tube that they provide over any kind of vacuum line. So the other thing that I learned was, if you're gonna wire it similar to how I have it set up with the reservoir right behind the seat, leave yourself enough slack on some of these wires here, if you decide to go with the pump in this location, to essentially be able to fold the seat all the way over like this is. So that way you're not pulling on any connections or anything like that. So unfortunately I didn't leave myself enough room, so I can still fold the seat over to refill the tank, but I can't lay it down flat like that without tugging on these wires here. So yeah, I might in the future decide to maybe add a little bit of slack on these and redo some of these connections here. But the solenoid, I did talk to the tech support over at SNO Performance, and they did say that they had several clients do basically the install for the solenoid at the intake in place of having a one-way check valve, or back here the way I have it, and both work just fine. I don't think I'm gonna have any siphoning issues or anything like that with the setup that I have, so I think this is great. The solenoid, if you follow the wiring schematics, basically the wires are interchangeable. You notice they're the same color. There's not like a red or for power and then a black for ground. Basically you can decide to choose either one for the power source, but the other one has to be connected to a ground source. Same thing with the tank level sensor, and basically that's how I've got it set up here. I'll put everything together and show you guys how everything is basically tucked away, but I already have the trim piece put back here, and the wires are basically running under the carpet, and they go right underneath this here. You can't even see it, and then they tuck away under the dash and make their way over. So all the connections are already set. I did put some labels on the wires, so in the future, who knows, at least I know what some of those do. And yeah, I just got to tuck everything in and power the system up, purge it, and hopefully it works like it's supposed to. So I'll do another quick wrap-up video once everything is put together, and then show you how everything looks. All right, here's another good bit of information. The boost pressure sensor, this is gonna have to go into a vacuum line that's strictly for boost, so just be aware of that. I have a Celine Mustang, so particularly on this car, this line comes from the intake manifold down below, and basically the boost pressure is what actuates the bypass valve. Anyways, so this is gonna have to go in here. I'm gonna have to get another one of these T's and make it work. But the important part is that these wires right here has to be connected to their respective wires in the gauge, and you're gonna have to feed it through the firewall somehow. So I found a really good spot for that. The wires, if you tell on the driver's side, this panel right here that you see these wires feeding through actually come from the hood release handle. So from inside, I will show you, but it's kind of dark and awkward to get into. But basically follow your pull handle, or your hood release handle, is going to lead you through a grommet. And if you look through there, you should see some daylight. And basically what I did was I just kind of grabbed this wire here and just pushed it right through the grommet and kept feeding it through. And then I came over here and I was able to see it. You can either grab it by hand or a needle nose plier and just kind of pull it. And basically that's it. That's how you kind of get this pressure sensor all wired up to the gauge down there. Everything is working perfectly. I just wanted to stop here and point something out. When you follow the steps, and then eventually you'll get to the purge part of it, keep purging it until basically, if you have an O2 sensor, it'll show you rich. So you might need to hit the purge button 3 times in order for you to get that. If you don't have a wideband, you'll still hear the engine change tune, like it bogs down a little bit. That's how you know you have the line fully purged. So I wanted to show you that. So there you go. Everything is working as it should. And I'll pause here and then take one final video and show you with everything tucked in and everything put away, and then some final thoughts on the setup. All right, take a look real quick at the full setup. So this so far is working out pretty well. I do have a drift event coming up tomorrow. So that's 27th on a Sunday. I don't know if I'll be able to compete. Kind of trying to figure that out right now. If I can keep the charge temperatures low, I'll be able to do it. At least try anyways and see if I can qualify. But my intercooler is basically busted, so I'm waiting for the new one to come in. I was hoping to kind of mitigate those high temps with SNO Performance water methanol injection kit. So I'm about to go out for a test drive and see if those temperatures stay cool, or at least if the gauge will even register that. I know it's being sprayed into the cylinders, and I know it will mitigate the heat. Yeah, I just gotta go out and test it. I'll take a video of that. But if you take a look, this is basically my gauge setup. You don't see any wires. Everything is tucked away. Everything is running under the carpet into the back. And once I put the mat back on, you don't see anything other than the reservoir there. So it's looking pretty clean. So far I'm happy with it. It works, nothing is leaking. I hope this video helps you out. I'm gonna go take it out for a test drive. I'll record that, and let's see if it moves the needle at all. I also kind of want to see what kind of boost the gauge is registering. I know it's going through some plumbing, and sometimes it may not be too accurate, but I believe on the dyno I was able to do 8 pounds of boost. So let's see if I get close to that on the gauge, and then I gotta decide whether to sign up for tomorrow or not. So yeah, let's go for a test drive, see what happens. So as you can tell, my target AFR is 11, and I was able to reach down to 10, so it went a full point richer using water methanol. So this is why you need a tune. Just automatically installing this is not going to give you instant power. You will need to readjust your target lambda or your target AFR in your fuel map, and then slowly start adding some timing and basically a tuner will be able to do this for you, and that is really the only way to get power out of this kit. Just installing it on its own is not going to do it for you, but basically this is what it looks like. I achieved 8 pounds of boost on the gauge, so I know that the sensor is working properly, so it's registering the proper amount of boost at 6,000 RPMs, and then the AFR is registering the change in mixture, so I know that it is spraying and reaching the cylinders properly. So yep, those are my final thoughts. I think the kit is great. It's a safe way to increase your timing. It's essentially increasing your octane so you can avoid detonation under high demand. And hopefully this video helped you out, and let me know if you have a kit yourself. How did you do it? How did you install it? And what have you learned from using it? I really appreciate that. All right, see you on the next one.